Almost 2,000 years ago, something happened on a hill in Jerusalem that changed the world forever, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. But what if I told you this moment wasn't announced for the first time back then? It was foretold nearly 2,000 years earlier, and that in a story you probably already know, the story of a father and his son. Chapter 1, The Prophecy. We're going back to a time long before Moses, long before King David. Abraham is an old man, and God has promised him something that seemed impossible, a son. Abraham waited decades, and then, finally, Isaac is born, the son of the promise, everything Abraham had lived for. And then comes a command that makes no sense. In Genesis 22, we read God speaking to Abraham, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the land of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you." Take a moment to picture this, not as a story you've heard 100 times, but as what it actually is. A father told to sacrifice his only beloved son with his own hands. Abraham says nothing. He doesn't argue. He gets up early the next morning, saddles his donkey, splits wood for the offering, and sets out. 3 days walking beside his son, knowing what waits at the end of the road. On the third day, Abraham sees the mountain in the distance. He takes the wood and lays it on Isaac. Isaac carries it himself, all the way up. And then Isaac asks his father something that breaks your heart. "Father, here is the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the offering?" And Abraham answers, "God himself will provide the lamb, my son." They walk on together. At the top, Abraham builds the altar, lays the wood on it, and binds his son. He raises the knife, and at that moment, the very last possible moment, a voice calls out from heaven, "Abraham, do not lay a hand on the boy. Now I know that you fear God. You have not withheld your only son from me." Abraham looks up, and there, caught by its horns in a thicket, stands a ram, a substitute, provided in the final second. Abraham sacrifices the ram in his son's place, and he names that place, "The Lord will provide," in Hebrew, Yahweh Yireh. A beautiful story about faith and obedience, but that's not the end. Chapter 2, The Connection. Because this story is more than a story, it's a map, and every marker on it leads to the same place. Let's look at what's really happening here, the mountain. The mountain where Abraham nearly sacrificed his son is called Moriah, a name you might not know, but the Bible mentions it a second time. In 2 Chronicles 3:1, we're told that King Solomon built the temple in Jerusalem on that exact spot, on Mount Moriah. And Golgotha, the site of the Crucifixion, it sits in the same area, the same ridge that Jerusalem is built on. Two events, nearly 2,000 years apart, in the same place. The son carries the wood. Isaac carries the wood for his own sacrifice up the mountain. No one forces him to carry it. He simply does, trusting his father. Nearly 2,000 years later, another son carries his own cross up the very same mountain. The Gospel of John describes it almost in passing. Jesus carried his own cross out to the place called Golgotha. Two sons, wood on their own shoulders, twice. The same path upward, twice. The only beloved son. God says to Abraham, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love." And in the New Testament, when Jesus is baptized, a voice speaks from heaven, the same kind of voice as on that mountain. "This is my beloved son in whom I am well pleased." A father, a beloved son, a mountain, the 3 days. It takes Abraham 3 days to reach the mountain. According to Jewish tradition, from the moment God gave the command, Isaac was already considered as good as dead in Abraham's heart. Those 3 days are a journey through death until rescue comes on the third day. And what happens to Jesus? He dies. And on the third day, out of the tomb, he rises again. 3 days in the shadow of death. Then, rescue, the lamb. Isaac asks his father, "Where is the lamb?" Abraham answers, "God himself will provide the lamb." He doesn't know it at the time, but he's speaking a truth that won't reach its full meaning for centuries. Because when John the Baptist first sees Jesus, he doesn't say, "Here is the teacher," or "Here is the king." He says, "Behold, the Lamb of God, who takes away the sin of the world." God had provided the Lamb himself. It just took nearly 2,000 years for the answer to Isaac's question to become visible. The substitute at the last moment. On Mount Moriah, Isaac doesn't die. A ram dies in his place, provided just in time to save the son. At the cross on Golgotha, it's reversed and yet the same. This time there is no substitute for the son, because this time the son himself is the substitute for you. Chapter 3. The conclusion. A story about a father willing to give up his son. A mountain, a son who carries the wood himself. A lamb that God provides himself, nearly 2,000 years before it happened. The whole story was already written, not as coincidence, not as a numbers game, but as an announcement. Abraham named that mountain "The Lord will provide." He had no idea just how true those words would become.